With the end of the year approaching, days getting shorter and colder, and also the holidays, the time of the year that feels so busy with family and friends and potentially big emotions. I know that a lot of us get the sads around this time of the year, seasonal affective disorder. So I thought it would be a good time for me to put out a video talking about video games that have helped me personally with my mental health. Games that feel like a warm hug or a good distraction, or games that talk about mental health in a way that helps you understand your own feelings better. I hope that this video is helpful for you in any way. And while I have you here, if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe. It really does help my channel. Okay, let's get started. I personally love using video games to kind of help me through my emotions, but as I was writing this video, I realized that I do this in 3 different ways. So this video is going to be separated in 3 different kinds of games. The first category of games is going to be cathartic games. These are games that aren't necessarily about mental health, but that in playing them and kind of projecting my feelings onto what the character was going through, they have kind of helped me process through my own emotions. Then I have games that are about mental health. These are games that tell stories of people that are going through certain mental health struggles or that deal with very specific feelings and emotions. Maybe you can relate to these characters and what they're going through and learn from their experiences. And the last category is going to be the distraction category. These are games that I gravitate toward when I want a little bit of an escape. These are games that feel like a safe space, a game that you can play if you just want to take your mind off of things for a little bit. Sometimes being in your head can feel a little bit heavy, and I totally understand that. So sometimes all you need is a little rest and a little distraction from whatever may be going on. Now that you know my categories, let's get started. Starting with the cathartic side of my mental health games, I couldn't go without mention one of my favorite games of all time, Journey. This game was released, I think, 10 years ago, and I remember the first time I played this game, I was just blown away. It was one of the first games that I ever played where I was like, video games are a form of art. You mysteriously wake up in the middle of the desert and you want to make your way up to this light shining at the top of a mountain. As you try to make your way onto the mountain, it's all about, well, the journey. You are going through all of these different stunningly designed environments. You never really get to see the face of the player that you're playing as, so throughout the whole game you really get to kind of project yourself onto the character, and all of the environments that they're going through kind of follows that really very kind of simple hero storyline. The music is one of my favorite parts of this game because it's really all about evoking emotions as you are going through each and every single one of these environments. They all have a different feel to them, and it's hard not to project your own feelings onto these environments and this music. This is one of those games that I like to revisit here and there because depending on the things that I'm going through, the journey, so to speak, always feels different. If you're looking for a game that reminds you that no matter how hard things can get, they always turn out okay in the end, and that it's all about the journey and the people along the way, this is a really good game for that. Along the same lines as Journey, I have Gris. I feel like this game has become a bit of a cult classic in the cozy gaming community, and I had my eye on it for a really long time, but I hadn't given it a try until a couple months ago, and I understand the hype now. It is honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. From the beginning of the game, I already felt so emotionally involved with the character. In this game, you play as Gris, who is a girl that after going through some painful experiences, her world kind of becomes gray. You go through different puzzles, and as you start solving the puzzles, you bring back colors into the world. There's very light platforming. The puzzles don't feel extremely difficult or anything like that. The whole experience feels very meditative because there is a very beautiful score that accompanies every single one of the levels, and depending on what you do in the level, the score is also reactive. I feel like this game is just so beautifully designed. I think anybody who's gone through a rough time mentally and emotionally would understand the experience of feeling like the world is like this gray place, and as you start healing, you feel like you can see colors again. This game is such a beautiful representation of that. I love this game because it feels very hopeful. I really recommend it. I feel like it's a really good game to play if you're maybe going through some great times yourself. Next is Wandersong. I feel like this game is severely underrated. I've mentioned it before in other ones of my videos, but I feel like I really had to include it on this list. This is a musical platforming adventure with an emotional story. You play as a silly bard and use music to interact with everything on a journey around the world. You essentially play as a walking musical instrument, and different things respond to your music in different ways. Along the way, you'll explore, solve puzzles, and meet a huge cast of characters. In this game, you are tasked with saving the world through singing. This whole game is about finding different pieces of music in order to create a whole song that will save the world, essentially. The main character feels like this idealist, silly guy who just really loves music and randomly gets picked to save the world. A very unlikely hero. It also just feels very hopeful in the way that it's designed. It's very beautiful and colorful and almost gives you this childlike wonder feeling. If you're a big fan of rhythm games, this is gonna be the one for you. The music is absolutely stunning. It has a message about how kindness and softness and gentleness, talents that only you have, can be just what the world needs to be a better place. And last in my catharsis list is Unpacking. I've talked about this game so much on my channel. It is one of my absolute favorite cozy games of all time. This game is about the familiar process of unpacking your belongings in a new space. You are following the story of this main character throughout their entire life. But the way that you're following their story is by unpacking their belongings in their new space. You get to see this character going through different periods of their life, gather what they're going through by the ambience, the environment, and the music. The more attention you pay to the details of the game, the more you get to know the person in the story. I feel like this game is really good for catharsis because the whole process of moving houses feels very familiar to me, and I'm sure to a lot of other people. And even though you don't really get to see the face of the person that you're helping move or whatever, you get to relate to what they're going through and kind of project the feelings that you've had in similar situations. I will never shut up about this game. It's so good. There are so many little items in this game and they're all so perfectly designed. It's part puzzle, part decoration game. I always say this, but if you have not played Unpacking, just play it and let me know how you like it. It's just so good. It's so good. Moving on to my next section of the video, we're gonna talk about games that are about mental health. The first game on this list is Night in the Woods. This is another cozy gaming classic. I personally really love this game. Night in the Woods is an adventure game focused on exploring story and characters. In this game, you play as May Borowski, who returns home to the crumbling former mining town of Possum Springs, seeking to resume her aimless former life and reconnect with the friends she left behind. Home seems different now, and her friends have grown and changed. Leaves are falling and the wind is growing colder. Strange things are happening as the lights fade, and there's something in the woods. I feel like this game does a very good job in showcasing things as going back to your hometown after you feel like you've changed so much after going to college, reconnecting with old friends, the importance of friendship in general and having people in your life that are on your corner. This is a game that talks about PTSD and depression in a way that feels very delicate and soft, which I really appreciate. You get to follow the journey of May as she kind of makes peace with herself after kind of a rough period of time in her life. I think this game is very well written. You can pretty much interact with anybody in the town, which I think is pretty cool. I always say this when I talk about this game, but the ending of this game really took me for a loop. It is very mysterious. There's kind of a whodunit mystery in the game. Let this be your warning if you've never played this game before. It's perfect for fall if you're still in the fall mood and not ready for winter just yet. I really love it. Next on my list is a game that I feel is also quite quite underrated. I haven't heard a lot of people talking about this game, which I think is outrageous. It's such a beautiful game, and that game is called Blue Wednesday. I've talked about this game a couple of times. I also have a short first look playthrough on my channel as well, if you would like to kind of get a peek of what the game is all about. This is a story-based game about a jazz pianist named Morris. You kind of find Morris at a breaking point in his life where he's trying to choose between his dreams and also what's more practical for his life. This is an interactive game that takes you to the vibrant city of Evans. You'll explore the city, interact with other characters, play amazing piano, and much more. As you follow Morris' story, you get to ponder on life and what truly matters to you. Follow his story as he goes from like that kind of starving artist period of his life into just going full force into following his dreams and what that means to him. Also perhaps falling in love in there. You really pick his brain as he's battling with his own feelings about his talents and what his life should be about and his priorities. It's also just a really fun game in terms of like mini games. It's so fun to play the piano in this game, and it's one of those beautiful story-based games that really does a good job in very creatively displaying emotions of characters in a way that is visually interesting and makes you kind of understand through visuals what the character is going through. This game deals a lot with depression and anxiety, dabbles very gently on subjects about self-doubt. This is a really good game if you're at a point in your life where you're feeling a bit stuck with what your heart is telling you and what your head is telling you, and kind of like trying to marry the two. Next on my list of games about mental health, I have a game that I've talked so much about here on my channel, but I couldn't make a video about mental health without mentioning it, and that is Florence. This is another beautiful story-based game about a girl who is a painter and falls in love. This game follows the story of this relationship, and you get to experience the emotions of this character as she goes from living a very monotonous life, meeting this person who kind of shakes her world, and rediscovering herself after a breakup. I think this game is so beautiful. It is visually stunning. It is one of the most beautiful story-based games I've ever played in my life. It's also another one of those story-based games that really leans into the minigame aspect of it, which, as I have already said, is one of my favorite parts of story-based games. From what I have heard, the developer of this game, they put a lot of their own experience as an artist into this game. Self-doubt, connecting with your inner child, and recognizing who you really are and what kind of things you actually want to do to live a fulfilling, happier life. And it also talks about how people can be in your life for a certain period of time and change you forever, even if they're not meant to be there forever. Beautiful, artistic, stunning game. I can't not recommend it enough, but I'm gonna shut up about it now because I've talked about it so much on this channel. And last but not least on my list of games about mental health, I have Spiritfarer. Spiritfarer is a cozy management game about passing away. You play as Stella, who happens to be the captain of a boat that is taking spirits into the afterlife. You build a boat to explore the world, care for your spirit friends, and release them into the afterlife. You farm, mine, fish, harvest, cook, and craft your way across mystical seas. Just the ambience, the visuals, the music, the character design, everything about this game is just top-notch. It's so stunning. Even though it is a game that deals a lot with grief and passing away, people's last wishes and regrets before they pass on, it is treated so gently and beautifully that I feel like it'll hold your hand as you process through these feelings, or if you relate to any of the characters. There are so many different stories in this game. There are so many different characters. Every single one of them has a different story and personality and likes and dislikes, and it's very interesting to get to know that about them and just kind of falling in love with them, even though ultimately you know that you're gonna have to say goodbye to them in the end. I feel like this is one of those games that will help you kind of meditate on your own life. It's a very good one to think about grief and what grief means to you. Grief is such a hard feeling to have, no matter what kind of grief you're experiencing. And I feel like this game treats grief in such a delicate, beautiful way. It really did help me in some ways to like understand my own grief a little bit better. It's just so beautiful, and I really, really recommend it. Okay. Now we're moving on to the distraction games, some of my favorite. I'm gonna try to speed through these because they're pretty self-explanatory. First, at the tippy top of my list is CoreKeeper. This game has had a chokehold on me in a way that games haven't had in a really long time, so I just need to talk about this one. It's one of those games that I feel you can sink so many hours of gameplay into, and it just gets better the more you play it. In this game, you awaken as an explorer in a long-forgotten cavern teeming with untold secrets. It's a mining sandbox adventure. You can play 1 to 8 player. You harvest relics and resources, craft tools, build your base. You get to level up your skills, and most importantly, you get to find so many cute animals. As you guys might imagine, this is some of my favorite part of the game. I'm not usually a survival game kind of person because I just find the crafting part of survival games really tedious, and when there are a lot of crafting and recipes that you have to remember, I have a really hard time with that, and it ends up becoming stressful and not very enjoyable for me. This is the single most fun survival game I have ever played in my entire life. It's such a good game to take your mind off of things. It's a really, really good hyperfixation game. I am telling you this from experience. If you're trying to find a survival game to hyperfixate on, this is the game for you. Next on my list is Good Pizza, Great Pizza. This is a game about managing your own pizza shop. This game just feels so silly and so hopeful. Own your own pizza restaurant, help your customers build the pizzas, and make sure that you get the orders right. As you help your customers, you also start gaining money, and in that way, you can completely customize your restaurant. There's also an underlying pizza lore in this game. Everything is about pizza. There are pizza news, pizza parades, pizza festivals. It's so silly and so amazing. I also just learned that they are soon gonna be launching a Good Coffee, Great Coffee version of this game, which is basically the same thing but with a coffee shop. And when I tell you, I cannot wait to play this game. This is another wonderful game to just get your mind off of things, just worry about your little pizza shop. There are so many charming characters. The whole thing feels very lighthearted and hopeful. It's a really good game to mindlessly play while listening to a podcast or watching a video in the background and just peak cozy gaming brain melting time. My favorite. Next on my list, I couldn't have a distraction list of games without talking about Powerwash Simulator. It's pretty self-explanatory in this game. You basically power wash to your heart's content. This is one of the most satisfying games to play ever. You go through different levels and you're just trying to clean each of the levels. It's such a good game to, again, play while you're listening to a podcast or something in the background. Absolutely amazing to just turn your brain off and get through the levels. You can also play it co-op, which I think is a wonderful way to just spend time with a loved one while also playing a silly little game. It's really good to just have conversations and have something to power wash while doing that. It's really fun. If you just don't want to think about anything, you don't even want to do anything difficult in a game, you just want to do something simple, methodical, satisfying, this is the game for you. Next on my list is a game that came out recently, and that is Tiny Glade. This game we have been waiting for so long, and it finally came out and it did not disappoint. Tiny Glade is a small diorama builder where you doodle whimsical castles, cozy cottages, and romantic ruins. No management, combat, or goals, just kick back and turn forgotten meadows into lovable dioramas. This is such a good game to just turn off your brain and let the creative juices flow. One of my favorite parts about this game, you get to pet the goats and the ducks, which, I mean, come on. This is a very good game for like escapism. You can create yourself your own little world, spend as long as you want creating the world of your dreams. Honestly, when I played the demo, I was like, this is so good. Like, what else are they gonna add? It's already amazing. And they did add a lot more stuff that makes it so much fun, so much more in depth. Everything is so perfectly done. The way that things appear and disappear is just so good. I really recommend it. You can also choose from different seasons, which changes the type of flowers that you get, the type of lighting that you get, some of the animals as well. I just think that's really awesome. It's such a peaceful, wonderful game, and I really, really recommend it if you're looking for just something to take your mind off of things for a little bit and a place to escape to. And those are all the games that I wanted to share with you. I hope that you can find something that in any way helps you with your mental health. Of course, even though video games are amazing tools to help us with our mental health, getting us through hard times, I'm obviously not a mental health professional. I am going to leave some resources in the description below in case you are needing a little extra help through this time of the year. Please remember to reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, to your chosen family. If you're looking for community, please remember that our Discord is open for you. We do have a community of lovely people who like to support each other there, and my Discord is always linked in the description of my videos. We're almost done with the year, and I'm really, really proud of you. I know that for a lot of us, it's been quite rough. I'm sending you a huge hug. As always, take extra care of yourself this month. Have some rest, have some water, and I'll see you in the next video.